Hi, and welcome to the tutorial using Post and Control APIs to connect your device to Widgeter. In this tutorial, we're going to talk about the two basic Widgeter APIs. The Post API, used by a physical device to send changes made on the physical device to the Widgeter server so that the widget displays in the app can reflect the current values, and the Control API, used by a physical device to get current widget values from the Widgeter server, so that a change made to a widget value within the app can enact some change on the device, like a door lock unlocking when the user changes the connected widget to unlocked in the app. For more tutorials on using Widgeter to connect with your custom IoT devices, subscribe to our channel and find us on social media. Both the Post and Control APIs can be accessed using an HTTP GET request, which means that the information that you're passing into the APIs are attached to the URL. The differences between the Post and Control APIs lie in what information is passed into the API and what you can expect as a response. We'll start with the Post API because it's simpler than the Control API. Remember, the Post API is used to send widget values from a physical device to the Widgeter server. An example might be a door open sensor. When the door is closed, the corresponding widget display in the Widgeter app should be set to closed. When the door is opened, and the sensor senses that the door has been opened, the device should send a Post API request with a value of open for the relevant widget. This way, the corresponding widget in the Widgeter app will update to open, and any downstream processing, like automations that are triggered by the opening of the door, for example, can occur. Here, we see how to construct the URL for our Post API GET request. The URL always starts with https://www.widgeter.io/API/ then the name of the API, in this case, Post, then the version, another / then question mark. As of recording this video, the version of all APIs is v1.1. The current version can always be found in the Widgeter app by going to the API information screen. Additional variables that need to be included in the URL string are user ID, API key, API secret, device ID, and data. Your user ID can be found by going to the account screen, then pressing on Account, Profile, and Settings. Your API key and secret can be found by again going to the account screen, then pressing API information. Make sure to use the Post API key and secret for the Post API and the Control API key and secret for the Control API. The device ID can be found by going to the Devices screen, finding the device and pressing on the device name to open up the information screen for that device, then pressing on Edit Device Settings. From there, the widget IDs for the data variable can be found by pressing on each widget for which you wish to send values. The widget ID for each widget is in the Widget Settings screen. The data field is special because it contains characters that need to be URL encoded, like the brackets, colons, and commas. The unencoded version should look like an associative array with each widget ID as a key, and the value being sent for that widget as the value. The URL encoded version should look something like this. For a full URL string that looks something like this, a successful Post API request will give a response of success. An unsuccessful request will give one of a variety of responses, depending on the reason it was unsuccessful. The Control API is similar and requires some of the same variables. The beginning of the URL looks the same, except for Control, where Post was before. You still need to pass the user ID, API key, and API secret. And remember to use the API key and secret for the Control API in this case. In the Control API, we also have a type variable. This determines the scope of our request, and the controls variable defines which data we're requesting, based on the type value. If the type is all, the Control API will return current values for all widgets, for all devices. In this case, the controls variable can be left blank. If the type is devices, the Control API will return the current values for only the devices specified, but all widgets within those devices. In this case, the controls variable needs only to specify which device IDs you would like data for. Since it will return all widgets within the given devices, you do not need to specify the widget IDs here. The unencoded controls variable in this case will look like a simple indexed array of device IDs. if type is widgets. However, the control API will return the current values for only the specified widgets within the specified devices. So, in this case, we need to list not only the device IDs, but also the widget IDs for each device. In this case, the unencoded controls variable will look like an associative array, where each device ID is a key, and its associated value is an indexed array of widget IDs. Again, the controls variable does need to be URL encoded. The status IDs variable is optional and can be used to restrict the response only to widgets that have been changed since the last call to the control API. This works by saving the status ID for each widget in the physical device, then sending it back in the status IDs field. Every time a widget value is changed, the status ID changes. If the status ID for a given widget has a server-side value that's the same as what's sent in the control API request, it indicates that there has been no change in that widget's value since the last call, so it excludes that widget from the response data. If you choose to use status IDs, they should be listed as an indexed array. If not, simply send none for this variable. As with the data variable in the post API, the controls variable and status IDs variable, if using status IDs, need to be URL encoded. An example URL including URL encoded controls and status IDs variables would look something like this. A successful control API request will return an array of data for the requested devices and widgets. Please note here that control ID and widget ID are used interchangeably and mean the same thing. If you used status IDs to limit the response to only widgets that have been changed since the last request, a response of "no updates found" indicates that the request was successful, but none of the widgets whose values were requested have been changed since the last request, so no data is being returned. Just like with the post API, an unsuccessful request can yield one of a variety of responses, depending on the reason it was unsuccessful. Now you know the basics of keeping physical IoT devices synchronized with the Widgeter system using the post and control APIs. These simple APIs let your devices both send and receive updated widget values for the purposes of control, monitoring, and automation of your IoT systems. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button below the video for more Widgeter tutorials. See you in the next video.